That came as a Bill of Rights after certain documents said something. We hold these truths, right, given to us as unalienable rights from our Creator. And what are those truths? Life, liberty. So literally we have written in a document that the most important thing to be American is freedom. Freedom is the most important thing in our culture. Out of freedom came the Bill of Rights, which now puts down different types of restrictions and regulations. But what's interesting, these restrictions and regulations are focused on personal responsibility in order to function in a free society. In communism, or even in France, in socialism, it's not about individual responsibility. It's about government responsibility, socialism, right? And you don't have individual freedom. It's the responsibility that the government has over you. So when you enact a government that is literally to serve the citizens can do bad things. You can't stop it. We cannot stop, if someone really wants to, killing someone because they want to kill them. You follow me? And yet, they have, years and years ago, they talked about, they had that American who was caned, right, because he stole something. I forget where it was, Philippines, Malaysia, somewhere. Thailand? Yeah, whipping for stealing something, right? So here we are. We're in a country, this whole idea of freedom. And because of that, freedom then is defined with boundaries. You are not free. Nobody's free to build a bridge. We set up requirements for that. But you have the freedom to vote for certain things that are ethical or philosophical or from a moral standpoint. And the people can actually decide what they think is right or wrong. Now, I'm giving you this little talk to get us warmed up today because we're moving into Book 4. We're going to be talking about God's will, God's will for a person's life. This idea of people being able to vote in order to enact laws, does that make us a democracy? No. What are we? What's the difference? A republic is literally set up to separate powers so that no power has enough authority to enact laws over everyone. So we literally set up a republic where you do have the right to vote, but there are restrictions within our government system to prevent any branch of power having full power over the people. Right? And what are our three branches of government? Sound like a charismatic church. Everybody telling me the same thing. Go ahead. Who said it?
Judicial, executive, and legislative.
Right. And what's each one for? Do you know? What's the executive? President. Right? No, it's okay. President. What's the legislative? Yeah, winning the House is a big deal. It's a big deal, right? Because from there you go into the Senate, so the Congress controls a lot because it represents all the states. What's the judicial? Supreme Court. Where did we get that from? Go ahead and read it. I'll read it because that's where I was going. You realize when the founders found it, here's what they said. They went into the Old Testament as part of what they designed our government for. And in Isaiah 33:22, the Lord is our judge, the judicial. The Lord is our lawgiver, legislative. And the Lord is our king, executive. He will save us. They took the model from the Old Testament to build American government. So we have a balance of power, which is why leftism and Marxism is trying so hard to turn us into a democracy. Because what does a democracy do? Whoever has the most power wins. That would be Rome back in the early days, right? Whoever is in control wins. Now, okay, but we voted in many states for, let's say, gay marriage, for open borders, all these things. Doesn't that sound like a democracy where might makes right and most people win by voting that way? So that our government actually is set up on a democracy where people can rule and decide? No, I get you. So what does it mean to be religious and yet have a majority vote on something that's evil or that's immoral, let's say? How do you connect those two? What's the difference between morality and ethics? I use stuff that's in my book just to see how many people actually read what I put out, and apparently nobody's reading the material. Morality is what people do. So we vote in a system that says it's okay to abort in a state. And people actually think that's okay. Nobody votes and goes, oh, I'm probably going to go to hell for this if I vote to abort children in the womb. But you know what? I just want it. Nobody thinks like that. People actually think it's okay because there's other rights they're thinking about. Or you think of any subject that you can think of that's a moral issue. The problem we run into is there's a difference between what people do or vote as what they think is moral and what God says. And that's what you ought to do. I use this example all the time of driving on the highway. Speed limit says 55. Who goes 55 in here or under? Yeah, he's right. Right. You're going to hell for sure. So we got, why, wait a minute, it's posted 55. That's the speed limit. Oh, it's other people's fault. You're right. You know why I break the law? Because of other people, right? Why don't you go 55? I look around, majority rules. That's what I do. And you know what else I do? I go, Caleb's a cop. He's sitting back there going, okay, I'm getting everybody's numbers. You know, because people look and they go, you know, I think there's a range. You know, I don't want to go 15 over because I'll look stupid. Now, if a guy goes by me at 80, I'm going to follow a little behind him, a little slower. But I'll go 60, 65. Because you know what? Everybody's doing it. Right? Guess what they're teaching in our colleges, in our high schools? Bless you. You name it. Whether it's fornication. I mean, I don't have any. I got a few little ones here. In Olathe High School, they have dispensers for condoms in the high schools. Why would they do that? Everybody's doing it. And what they're saying is, I'd rather you're safe when you do it than have a baby, right? So therefore, morally, it's actually a good position to keep everybody safe. What do you think? What does God say? He goes, gosh, you guys make a good point. I never thought of that, you know? No, God literally says there's an ought that's completely different. Don't have sex outside of marriage. Don't. It's too hard. I can't do that. See what I'm saying? This is the culture we're in. And we're trying to figure out as Christians, how do we live in a way that pleases God? And when you please God in culture today in America, you will not be liked. You can't help it. And we talk about, yeah, but you know what? I'm afraid. I don't want people to think badly of me. I don't, and by the way, it's okay. I get it. I mean, it's terrible. It's true, right? People think badly of you for the way you think. It's getting worse and worse. But there comes a point you sit there and you say, you know, this is why we're going to do this next year, once a month, these courses. How much do I really believe, that the person I worship every Sunday is real? How well do you really know him to the point where you're actually living for him? So I think it's important we're here so that we can get here. And a lot of times we start here and then we have no answers here.